What's up, everybody? It's Glenn and Big Jack back with an AFC North divisional preview. Big Jack, it's a pleasure to have you back. Let's talk some AFC North. How about it?
Right on, brother.
All right. So, as we've been doing with the other division, let's maybe start with the longest odds, which I'm looking at PointsBet Sportsbook, but right now the longest odds is the Pittsburgh Steelers at plus 450. It's really not that crazy long of odds. All four teams are plus money in this division. Uh, Another tough division, kind of like the other two we talked about already today. What are your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Steelers headed into this season?
Absolutely. Both the AFC North and the NFC North are the certainly not the best, but most competitive within the division. I think the Steelers on Bet Rivers, they're plus 500. And I think for the NFC North, the Bears, I want to say, are the longest odds, and they're like plus 425. So they're very compact. A lot of things could happen. They see them as tight divisions all the way through. Steelers, gotta love Mike Tomlin. Guys, never goes under 500. And Kenny Pickett coming into his second season, he'll be going into the year as the starter. You know, Somehow they gave the starting job to Mitch Trubisky last year. I don't know why any football team would ever name Mitch their starter, but I guess it happens. It's happened a couple times, apparently. Who knew? But they got George Pickens at wide receiver. Guy's an animal. I wish more and more all the time that the Bears would have drafted him. But, it is what it is. Oddly enough, they signed Allen Robinson,
Yeah.
which will be, you know, interesting to check out how that goes for them. In the draft, they got a lot of guys in. They brought in Broderick Jones, one of the tackles that was kind of on the Bears' radar. They obviously went with Darnell Wright. Fine, we're happy with that. But just another thing to keep an eye on because he was a highly thought of lineman as well that they sort of passed on. And then Joey Porter Jr. is interesting to me just because that's got excuse me, the safety out of Penn State that they drafted. Um, and, that's just the Bears pick, the Claypool trade. So hopefully he's terrible because that trade hurts right now so bad. Holding out hope on Claypool, but it's been ugly thus far. And they just got a good defense, man. Tomlin's a great coach. They got a healthy TJ Watt coming in, who, earlier in one of our videos, I was kind of saying how I kind of like Micah Parsons to sort of take the throne as the man on defense in the NFL. But TJ Watt's going to be right up there. He's still probably a top five guy. He's a freak when he's healthy. They just got a good team, good solid team overall. They still got Najee Harris, even though he's been a disappointing fantasy football player. He's still a good back, still solid, reliable. And I think, if Kenny Pickett makes the jump, this is a pretty good football team. Their over under for wins is 9. It opened at 8.5 minus 115. It's moved to 9 minus 120.
Wow.
Um, I do think it's a perfect number. Uh, I don't know if they win 10 games, but I don't know if they're under 500. So I love them as a 9-8 team. Maybe 10-7 if they have a good year, maybe 8-9, 7-10 if a bad year. But I'm not touching the over under because I do think it's spot on. I think they win 9 games. I think they're a pretty solid team, very competitive team all year long. Um, and I do think Kenny Pickett's going to be a pretty good quarterback this year.
I like the over, Jack. I like Kenny Pickett. I like some of the things they did in the draft. They drafted Broderick Jones, and then they also drafted that tight end out of Georgia, which maybe he's a okay receiving tight end, but you know what he's going to be? He's going to be a demon in blocking situations day one. He's going to be like one of the best blocking tight ends day one. If TJ Watt stays healthy, like we've said, you could say that about every team. I'm going to assume he stays healthy. If he stays healthy, I think over 9. I think that's the bet. I wish it wasn't, bet up like what you're talking about. I wish I could have got it 8.5. To be honest, I don't know if I've looked at the Steelers number before you just read it to me. But yeah, I like them at winning at least 9, if not 10, 11 games. Tomlin's a good coach. I think Pickett's on the ascendancy, and I think that their defense stays healthy, it should be a pretty good defense. Um, I like over.
Love it. Official lock. You haven't made any official future picks quite yet.
You know, I forget which early video it was. I want to say it was that when we were doing the South. I want to say in there
Well,
I might have
you
picked
like
one.
Tennessee. I feel like
Yeah, there was like one or two that day that I was really feeling. Since then, this is probably the best I felt about a bet. I'd probably lean the over on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I like it. You know, like we said, Tomlin gets it done. So they
Yep.
just need one more to get over the hump to get you that 10. But we'll keep it moving right along to the Cleveland Browns. They're a little shorter odds to win the division. On my end, I'm looking at it's cut in half from that plus 500. It's plus 250 to win the division. Um, you know, Deshaun Watson, big question mark. Obviously, he's finally coming into a season where he's going to be full go from day one. Going to close out that 11 game suspension last year. Obviously, you know, we don't need to get into the off the field allegations and everything else. You know, maybe karma is just a real thing, and this guy is going to have a negative career going forward. But he was incredible before all this stuff happened with the masseuse situation, allegedly. Um, and he
Which
really
one?
was. So,
Which one of the 50?
yeah, one of the 100. But he really was so good. And part of me finds it hard to believe that he's not that quarterback that's somewhere in there. Um, you know, I is from a standpoint of how do you justify promoting a guy or whatever. I think he's going to have a good year, man. I think he's coming in. He's kind of hopefully in his eyes, from the team perspective, he's kind of past that and he's focused a little more on football. Um, it doesn't have to deal with it as much or as intensely. He'll always have to deal with it, rightfully so, but he shouldn't be as, forefront the way it was kind of as it was unfolding these past 2.5 years, whatever it's been. They got a great backfield with Nick Chubb. They lost Kareem Hunt. Don't really got anything to replace him, but I think Chubb is that good where he's a true bell cow type of guy. They got Amari Cooper, who's a stud. They got Elijah Moore from the Jets, who was pretty damn good early on in his career. I think he still is good. I think he'll be fine for them. Their defense is excellent with Myles Garrett up front. Another one of those guys in the conversation for those top 5 defensive difference makers. Their over/under for wins is 9.5. It's plus 105. It opened at 8.5, minus 110. So it has been bet up a little bit, bet up a game. Um, you know, they're very similar to the Steelers. I could see both of those teams winning 9 or 10 games. So I don't think I would play it, but you know, I just find it hard to believe that Deshaun Watson's going to be as bad as he was last year off the suspension. I think that he sort of has a little bit of a bounce back year and kind of gets, similar to what we talked about with the NFC West when we talked about Geno Smith and how good he was last year and how he kind of earned that contract. But part of me thinks, okay, you had the good year, similar to Jared Goff almost. You had the good year, but are you that, or are you what you've sort of been throughout your career? I think Deshaun Watson had a bad year, and I think he's going to kind of more be the guy that he has been prior to that bad year. So I think the Browns are going to be pretty decent this year. I like Kevin Stefanski as a coach. I think they play smart. They'll probably run the ball. Deshaun Watson's just got to take care of it, do his thing here or there when they need it to win games. And I think that defense will kind of carry him through.
Yeah, not a ton of holes on this roster. To be honest, I think their defense is pretty strong. They picked up Delvin Tomlinson in the offseason.
Yeah, that's a guy that everyone was so high on the Delvin Tomlinson pickup from Minnesota and like all these pressures he's had and this and that. But like, dude, Minnesota's defense was so bad. I guess maybe he individually was good.
It was pretty
I don't
solid.
remember. Yeah, I don't remember feeling like he was, that highly thought of within the division. But maybe it's just because their overall defense was so horrible.
Sure, sure. And then obviously you got Myles Garrett, maybe the best defense player in all football. He's up there. Um, their offensive line is nice. That rookie
Very good.
out of Ohio State, that right tackle, mountain of a man, DeJuan Jones, is looking like the real deal. I know it's preseason, but we'll see. Um, this is a team I'm steering clear just because Watson was bad last year, and who
He was
knows?
very bad.
Yeah, who knows if that's kind of like what you're saying. You think it's more if he had a bad year last year and he'll regress to the or he'll progress to the mean or whatever that saying is, kind of the opposite of it. Maybe it's a guy that he just isn't the same anymore. I don't know. So I think that I'm just steering clear of any kind of bet on this team. I could see them being a legitimate force in this division. I could see them being um, nothing that you're getting excited about too. So I'm just steering clear of that team. But with that being said, on to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Yep. They're actually very close to the odds as the Browns are. They're plus 240 to win the division, according to Bet Rivers. Um, they're like a sneaky Super Bowl favorite team for a lot of the pros out there. Though people love this team this year as far as their longer odds for the Super Bowl. They think they're going to be competitive. Obviously, everyone loves John Harbaugh. They got Lamar Jackson, fresh off that new contract they finally inked. Um, and they did some things with giving him some weapons. They bring in OBJ coming off the injury. They signed Nelson Aguilar. They draft Zay Flowers, who was a guy a lot of Bears talk was surrounding out of Boston College. So they still got Mark Andrews. They're running their backfield's still the same. J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. I think it's a good team. I think Lamar Jackson will be ready to get out there and get after it. He's got his money now. I don't think he's a, get the bag and chill kind of guy. I think he got his money and he's going to go show why he deserves it. I think he's going to be back with a vengeance this year. He's been dealing with some injuries, which you always worry about, especially the way he plays and how he utilizes his legs. But they got a new offensive coordinator situation as well. I don't think they're going to be putting him at risk as much, especially since they did give him that contract. I just don't know if that hurts or helps them really. He's so dynamic with his legs and the way that he's able to put pressure on the defense playing like that is that dual threat that they run those sort of read option type of plays where he's coming out of the backfield all the time. Um, I don't know if you want to take too much of that away from a guy like that, regardless of the risk of injury. So I'm interested to see how this team looks this year. Um, their over under for wins is 10.5 at plus 105. It's the most movement I've seen. It opened at 8.5. It was minus 140, so it was super juiced to the over. But to move two whole games is, people are obviously hammering this Ravens team. Um, you know, I I can't say I got a lot against it. I do think they're going to be good. Um, I don't know if they're 11, 12 wins good though. I think 10 seems about right. I think I think they Ravens, Browns, and Steelers. There's not a lot that separates them in my eyes, other than Lamar Jackson's the better quarterback out of those three situations. At least he's proven to be thus far, and Harbaugh's the better coach as well. Um, Over Stefanski, at least. I guess maybe people would argue they like Tomlin better than Harbaugh, but I think they got a good team, and I think 10 wins is about right. So I'm not sure I would take the over, but someone's got to lose some games in this division the more I look at it. So I don't know. I'm not sure how this one's a tough one to read for me. I'm not sure how it's all going to shake out.
I'm going to go on a limb and I'm going to say that I think the Ravens are the team that takes a step back this year. I think that they didn't do much in the offseason other than bringing some OBJ, Nelson Aguilar, Laquan Treadmill type uh, wide receivers. I know they picked Zay Flowers in the draft, but I don't know. I don't love what I see in their trenches compared to what I feel like they had last year. Maybe I'm crazy and I'm wrong, but um,
Well, they
I
paid Roquan Smith, so
yeah, they got Roquan, they got Patrick Queen, they picked the kid from Clemson, that linebacker as well. That's just like them, that Trenton Simpson kid. But linebackers are fine. Linebackers are great, whatever. But I think I'm going to pick them. I would bet on their under. I think.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, okay, I can dig it. Yeah, we'll see, man. Like I said, there's not a lot that separates those, and I mean the odds dictate it. They're all pretty tight, but not a lot that separates those guys in my mind between the Browns, Ravens, and Steelers. Moving on to the Bengals, um, they're only plus 145 to win the division. So I guess if you think they take it, that's pretty good value for a favorite. Um, you know, I do think they win. This division is so even in my eyes. I don't think I would lay it just because of my lack of appetite for futures to begin with. But Zach Taylor entering another year, he kind of was horrible at the start. A lot of people questioning him, and then Joe Burrow's come in and done his thing, and now he's got a whole new light on him. But it's what it comes down to: is Joe Burrow is. I think you could go back. We started doing our picks videos. This will be our third full year of doing it now. And you go all the way back to some of our first videos. I bet somewhere in there you'd hear me saying how I think Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the NFL behind Patrick Mahomes. So we've been on him early. I think he still is that. So you got to have a lot of faith in that guy leading this team. Their weapons are ridiculous. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. T. Higgins is probably a number one on 60, 70% of football teams in the NFL, and he's the number two on the Bengals because they got Jamar Chase. They got Tyler Boyd as a number three. They still got Joe Mixon. They drafted Chase Brown out of U of I. Interesting for a little hometown angle. And then they signed Orlando Brown, who I was really, really hoping the Bears would sign, but didn't happen. He's with the Bengals. They shored up the offensive line. The year prior, they brought in some more offensive line to help Joe Burrow out. I think they just kind of keep building on the team. They believe in what they have. They've made some good playoff runs these past couple of years, obviously making it to the Super Bowl and losing to the Rams in a tight game. And then last year, they had that competitive game where they lost to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship. But, I think they keep it moving forward. They bring in Miles Murphy, draft him out of Clemson. All their first three picks were defensive guys, so they're trying to sort of, strengthen that side of the ball as well. I think they're pretty comfortable with what they have working on the offensive side of the ball. Um, and I'm not sure how serious Joe Burrow's calf injury was in training camp. He seems to be back and full go ahead of week one, so I guess I believe that he's fine. That's just a little worrisome because I feel like Joe Burrow is the type of guy on a team like this where if he misses time, it's going to be very difficult for them to win football games. Their over under wins here is 11 and a half. It opened at 11 and a half, minus 110. It's now still 11 and a half, but it's plus 125. So people have kind of been taking a little bit of action on the under there. I mean, it's a big number. 11 and a half is a lot of wins, especially in like we've been, commenting on how evenly stacked this division is, playing each other twice. When division games are tough, regardless of how competitive they are, they're always tough. So, I get betting the under, but plus 125 is a good amount of juice for over 11 and a half wins on a team that I think could very easily win 12 football games.
Yeah, I mean they're also another one of the favorites, and I think it's for a reason. Joe Burrow gets a lot of the credit as he should, but sneaky, their defense is pretty freaking solid. Um, they didn't lose a ton this offseason other than at safety, and I think if there's an area probably where you're okay with losing some, it is probably in that second half of the secondary. Um, I like this to be a team that they won 12 games last year, and they had that one game with Tamar Hamlin that just got straight up canceled.
Yeah.
Could have been a 13-win team last year. I don't see any reason why they don't kind of be in that same stratosphere again this year. Um, that's a big number. I'm probably staying away from 11 and a half just because of, like you said, if they lose Burrow, eh, they're not going to come anywhere near that 11 and a half number, I don't think. But if he stays healthy and nothing crazy happens, Chase stays healthy, Higgins stays healthy, their defense doesn't get too banged up, I see them probably being over 11 and a half. But just because that number's so big, if Burrow missed a month, I think that number's fucked. So, um, I think they're the favorites in the division for a reason. I think they're one of the Super Bowl favorites for a reason. I think Joe Burrow is the real deal. Um, I wonder what his MVP odds are. He's got to be one of the favorites, right? He's got to be up there.
Yeah, I think Mahomes is the favorite, and
He's
then
second.
Allen and Burrow were like tied for second at plus 800. Um,
Right now on points bet, the top five are all relatively close. It's Mahomes first, Burrow second, Allen third, Hurts fourth, Herbert fifth. So
yeah, I don't think I'm not necessarily taking anything in this division, but I do see a situation in which if the Ravens are the team that sort of comes out flying, I do kind of like Lamar Jackson plus 1400 a little longer at that MVP. And I feel like if he's an MVP guy, they're probably winning the division at plus 240. Um, I don't think it happens, but I could see the angle of that value there.
I think my favorite bet in the division is the Steelers over. I don't know if you got a favorite in general, but I think that's the one I like the most.
Yeah, no, I think if I had gotten the right side of the number at that 8.5 for Cleveland, um, like I said, I just think Deshaun Watson's going to be, maybe those skeletons are just too much. It's got to be a lot to deal with. And I mean, no one's going to have any sympathy for him, nor should they. But I just think he's going to be more the guy that he was before all this. So we'll see how it plays out. I think that team could, you know, I would like it at 8.5. I think I would probably play it at 8.5. 9 seems about right. But if I had to pick one in this division, I think I would still take their over. I think they could win 10 games.
All right, well, that's the AFC North from Big Jack and myself. We will be back to finish out with the NFC North here shortly. So, if you're new here, like and subscribe. Until next time, peace.
Bears.